Well, another great week for electric vehicles. Dear Colin Walker, it's a shame you hold others to a higher standard. It would be great if you could print a retraction, then remove it altogether. 4,600 people have read this ridiculous, misleading tweet, and despite me asking you on numerous occasions, you have done nothing about it. The government are going to give a grant of up to £3,750 towards a new electric vehicle, so long as it meets certain criteria. One of the criteria I hope that it stipulates is cleanliness and how clean the vehicle is when it arrives on our shores, i.e. either from China or from Europe. If we're going to give money away by the taxpayer, which we shouldn't do, because I'll tell you now, it won't be transferred to the end user. All that will happen is the manufacturers will put the prices up. They did it last time. As soon as there was a grant announced, the manufacturers put the prices up. Said they were losing money making them, I think, from memory. So don't think you're going to get £3,750 off a vehicle. And there's two tiers, I believe. One's £1,500, one's £3,750. So for goodness sake, Chinese cars allegedly have been subsidised by the government already. And then when the legacy EV manufacturers don't hit their targets, they're having to buy carbon credits. It was £15,000 they would have to pay the government if they missed the target. So they have to buy carbon credits, and they have to negotiate with the likes of Tesla, who only make EVs, and the other manufacturers who mostly only make EVs too. So the government, let's just examine this. The way things are going, they're going to fall short of their ZEV mandate by a long, long way. So the government's giving out £3,000 now, £3,750 or £1,500, but in the future, when it comes time to pay the piper, they'll want £12,000 back for every car that the manufacturers fall short of the target. £12,000. So, you know, are they giving anything away? They're giving our money away now. They're giving taxpayers' money away now, and they're going to recoup it in the future. The way I see it, because I don't think there's a hydrogen engine being announced, and I'll try and go into it because the way I see it, this hydrogen engine sounds absolutely fantastic. If it comes out, it will kill EVs stone dead, without a doubt. That's it, gone. Nobody will want one. Of course, the hydrogen vehicles, they'll be more expensive when it comes, like EVs were, but let's be giving grants towards those. The byproduct of hydrogen, from what I can gather, is water. We're short of water, or are we? Or have we got too much water? There's not enough rain, but we've got too much water and the sea's right. So fresh water, it's too complicated for me. Let me know in the comments what we're short of and what we've got too much of. Let's just go through this. Because it's attracted the usual suspects piling in. Here we go. Electric cars will be cheaper to buy, pledges Minister. The government will make it cheaper for people to buy an electric car, the Transport Secretary has told the BBC. But Heidi Alexander would not confirm whether it would give grants to encourage motorists to switch when asked by Laura Kernsberg on Sunday. She's really nice, lovely personality. Following a report in the Telegraph that Labour is poised to unveil £700 million in subsidies, instead she pointed to a £25 million package that will be allocated to councils to fit cross-pavement gullies to make it easier for people without driveways to charge an electric vehicle, EV, alongside £63 million for charging infrastructures. So these gullies that go across the pavement, what happens when the utilities come to dig the road up? What happens when the broadband company come? The cul-de-sac where I used to live was just resurfaced. Just resurfaced. They made a lovely job. Do you know what? 2 weeks later, the cable company came and dug it all up and made a complete mess of it. Who's going to pay for digging these people's cables up? What are they going to do? How are they going to do it? Who's going to do it? What's the safety implications of digging these cables up when they need to do something to the pavement? As I say, to the utilities, to broadband, to Sky, other supplies, gas and water. When there's a leak, what's going to happen? The Conservatives welcome the investment but accuse the government of forcing families into buying expensive EVs. The average price of a new EV in the UK is nearly double the cost of a typical petrol car at £22,000, though some Chinese brands are beginning to market their electric cars for as little as £18,000. Yeah, there's been a massive price war in China, massive, because they've got 3.5 million unsold EVs just lying around. They've done the best to fudge the figures, the sales figures, selling each car, at least a couple of times, I think, from what I can gather. Asked if she had an electric car, the Transport Secretary said she did not, as she lived in a terrace house without a driveway. Now, the other thing is, what if, because there's a couple of roads up there, little cobble roads, and I've just been to drop some work off for a guy I've done up the road there. They can't park outside their own house. They're all terraced houses. It's absolutely chock-a-block. And basically, it's first come, first served. Some of them have to park right up the road there. This is a stupid idea. Only a moron would think of it. The government, TV motoring journalist Quentin Wilson, said he'd been campaigning for improved signage. Signage, come on, for goodness sake. If you've got an EV, you find where the charges are. You don't really need signage, do you? That's just a waste of money. It's stupid. It's just an excuse. It's just another excuse as to why they're saying, oh, EVs aren't selling. And when they run out of excuses and EVs still aren't selling, Quentin, no doubt, he'll jump on the hydrogen bandwagon then. He's been on the petrol, he's been on EVs, he'll get on the hydrogen then. So let's go and have a look at the usual suspects. We'll just go to the top here. This, again, came up in my timeline. I do not follow this chap. He winds me up, to say the least. The BBC continues to get its reporting on EVs wrong. Quotes Vauxhall as saying the EV sales target this year is 28%. At the moment, we're running at 21.6% as an industry. Wrong. Flexibilities that the car industry lobbied for lower the target for 2025 to 22%. And they make up the rest with flexibilities, or they pay in future. What are the flexibilities? They're petrol cars. Low emission petrol cars. See here, look. Dear whatever, it would be great if your article could be amended to reflect this fact. This is the chap. I know I've said it time and time again. Colin Walker. This will also have a knock-on effect on the second-hand market, where most of us buy our cars. The EVs sold today are the second-hand EVs of the future. And research we released today shows how a second-hand EV can save people an average of £1,600 a day. 4,600 people have seen that. 4,600. I've messaged him, and the ECIU is the firm he works for, the Climate Intelligence Unit. I've messaged him time and time again for him to print a retraction on this. And then delete the tweet. I mean, look, November 23rd, 2024. This was one of my replies. Research released today shows that it's cheaper to run a Ford Mustang 5 litre than it is to run a GWM Aura by about £20,000. And that's even after you've more than offset your carbon footprint by planting trees. A 2024 GWM Aura hatchback has tanked by £18,390, or 59%. 59% in 8 months. Whilst the Ford Mustang 5 litre hasn't. In fact, the pony car has gone up by £2,500 since January, making the total difference £20,890, with which you could buy 3,210 gallons of petrol and drive 80,250 miles at 25 miles per gallon in the Stang. Or pay £712.80, drive round with a smile from ear to ear and plant enough trees in the northwest to offset 100,000 miles. Don't believe me? Oh, well, there you go. There's the calculator, look. There we go. And there we go. He's not replied to that. November 2024. EV misinformation tactic from the Telegraph. Use one person's bad experience in an EV to play that everyone is having a bad time. And ignore all the surveys by the evangelist that consistently show that 90% of EV drivers would never go back to petrol, diesel. Here we go, another one. Dr. Andy Palmer. At BBC News, there's enough BS being said without you adding. Due to living in the countryside, says she has a lower electricity supply than some more standard properties. A home charger will work in any property with single phase. Try powered by pod. Haven't they just lost 340 million in share value and been bought out by a French company? Weren't they worth 352 million pounds a couple of years ago and have now been valued at 7.5? The shares went for 10 because they gave a 24% uptick on the shares to buy them, to do the takeover. Carolyn Hammond, 49, from North Devon, would like to buy an electric car, but due to living in the countryside, says she has a lower electricity supply than some more standard properties. She says she has spoken to National Grid about upgrading their supply, but was quoted a price of £16,500 plus VAT. That makes it sadly too pricey, she says. Andy says that that's rubbish. We couldn't get a fast charger at the garage because the cable that's applied our garage or porter cabin, as you would call it, really wouldn't take the current. So they would have to dig the main road up and break into the electric and rewire the whole place for me to have a fast charger for my car. So that we couldn't do that. I can't have one here. I'm in an apartment. I can't. And in all honesty, I wouldn't want a fast charger on my property. I wouldn't charge my car while I was asleep. I wouldn't charge an EV overnight. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want a fast charger. So, you basically couldn't pay me enough. I have another friend. He lives in a reasonably new house. He lives in a cul-de-sac. When he got his fast charger, every time he put his car on to charge, it tripped the circuit in his house. So that's, again, usual suspect, Andy. I sent a message to Andy a few weeks ago and he asked me what point I was trying to make and said, go on, I dare you. I think I made my point. I think everybody else could see what my point was. But it sounded a bit like a threat. A bit like a threat. Lots of government EV announcements in the last 24 hours and lots of dodgy reporting. The best stroke worst being this gem from BBC News. The average price of a new EV in the UK is nearly double the cost of a typical petrol car at £22,000. Categorically wrong. Here's why. Why? It implies that the cheapest EVs on the market are A, Chinese, and B, start at 18,000. Both wrong. The cheapest new EV on the market is a Dacia, a Romanian brand owned by Renault, a French brand, and it starts at 14,995. Let's just have a look at his link. Dacia Spring. Well, we'll go back there. But, you see, he's wrong there. So both wrong. Well, there's three of you wrong. I thought it was just a slip of the tongue. So what I did, I put, but are worth less after 12 months. So they're more expensive than, a new EV is more expensive than a new ICE car. But after 12 months, they lose that much in value, they depreciate so much that they're actually worth less than the equivalent ICE car, which costs less new, because they lose that much money. Therefore, it's cheaper to run an ICE car than it is to run an EV. It's simple, isn't it? It's got to be. Their own words prove it's cheaper to run an ICE car. Call me all the names you want, but that's it. So here we go. But are worth less after 12 months. I think what they actually meant to say is that a new EV costs twice as much as a 12-month-old EV because they depreciate so much. Oh, and to add insult to injury, a 12-month-old ICE car that costs a lot less new is worth a lot more than the same year and mileage used EV. It's no wonder they got it mixed up, is it? And then we got this chap here. My ID Pro Performance Max cost me $34,000 in July. I've just sold it on motorway for $16,900. In 4 years, it's lost half its value, not 12 months. So I went on Auto Trader, looked at a 2021 plate, Performance Max, and you could buy one from a dealer with a 12-month guarantee for less than $16,950. I pointed that out to him and he said, oh, he's had a heat pump. Well, I don't believe it. And then you've got this chap here, always in boots. Total and utter bollocks, Barry. You're a known EV hater and misinformation source. Did you help the BBC write this piece? Because you're full of shit also. And I always look. When people do this and they call me names, I always look. There we go. Scott Wills. His first thing, look. Make electric vehicles fairer and more affordable before it's too late. EV Nick, EV Man, the EV Puzzle, EV Opinion. Will Feely, everything electric. Octopus, Pole, EVAN, Cleveland EV. You know, he's no agenda, has he? He's no agenda. Always in boots. Now, always in boots. I didn't like what he'd said. I clicked on his thing, worn a few uniforms at the sharp end of service. An instructor these days, but still like to get my boots dirty. Now, I have the utmost respect for anybody who dons a uniform for the UK. Whether it be police, army, air force, navy, utmost respect. So, I think I went fairly easy on him. I look at the media, and as one of the people that I follow says, he's a pixelated face man. But again, these EV people, gifts. Here we go, one of my followers. The Dacia Spring is built in China at a plant jointly operated by Renault and Dongfeng, according to BBC News. It's a rebadged version of the Renault City KZE, which itself was originally designed for the Indian market as the Renault Kwid, reports Car Magazine. So, the cheapest new EV on the market is a Dacia, a Romanian brand owned by Renault. Well, would it surprise you to know that they can't even sell EVs at $14,995? Because if we go here, there you go, Dacia Spring 2025, up to 25 miles. And here we go, look at this one, for instance. Dacia Spring, 10,450, it's done 10 miles. It says £7,195 save. 17,645 recommended retail price when new. For sale at £10,450. Right, okay. Let's just have a look at this then. Listed on the 7th of the 7th, 2025. It says that with only 1,000 miles on the clock. But it's actually saying 10 there. There you go, 10 miles. Read more. It was registered on the 30th of the 6th, 2025. So you know when they're crowing about how many EVs they sold last month? This has been registered on the 30th of the 6th, 2025, and then advertised for sale on the 7th A week later, advertised for sale, was £7,000 off. They can't even sell the cheapest EVs. They're still having to give them away. What will that be worth? It's a shame there isn't one with a registration number on. Oh, there is. Is there a 25 plate? Yeah, there is. There's a 25 plate here, one. So that's YE25LXB. YE25LXB. It probably won't let me do 10. But I'll put 1,000 mile. No, I'll try 10. 7,845. These are pretty basic errors from a pretty reputable news outlet, and all help contribute to the fog of misinformation that surrounds EVs and the EV transition. Suffice to say, a request for corrections to be made is going in. Must do better. This is from, and research we released today shows how a second-hand EV can save people an average of £1,600 a day. There we go. Couldn't agree more. Not as bad as claiming you can save £1,600 a day if you buy an EV though. Dear Colin Walker, it's a shame you hold others to a higher standard. It would be great if you could print a retraction, then remove it altogether. 4,600 people have read this ridiculous, misleading tweet, and despite me asking you on numerous occasions, you have done nothing about it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.